Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. Welcome to Fast Effect. We used to be Brainstorm MTG. Now it's just Double Speed Magic from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. We have an exploration from Max getting Force of Willed by Nick after he cycles a Street Wraith, making sure he pitches the optimal blue card. Thespian Stage comes in after Wasteland, trying to keep Max off of his mana base. We'll see if that ends up being the correct line, as lands has the ability to recoup very easily on its mana base. Delver not flipping? No, it is not. Brazen Borrower is not a creature anywhere. Is a creature everywhere except when it is on the stack as Petty Theft. Any other zone, it counts as a creature only. So Brazen Borrower will potentially be able to break up the Merit Lage path to victory if Nick gets a mana base back underneath him. If Max finds a green source and has Life from the Loam, this is going to get graphic very quickly. Misty Rainforest, a pretty stable mana source. We'll see if this build has any basics at all. Probably not. I ran Death Shadow. I did not run any basics. The main thinking there is Blood Moon is actually a disaster. Even if you had basics, you couldn't actually lower your life total, so your Death Shadows wouldn't come online. So that would be pretty much game over anyways. You're not going to beat too many decks when so much of your deck is shut off by Blood Moon. And now Death Shadow entering the battlefield, a healthy 5/5, though this Delver has barely been helping out. Just not interested in flipping whatsoever. 6 damage coming in. Pair of Thespian Stages for Max so far, and he's likely facing down lethal here. Gurmag Angler. And that's going to do it. Tabernacle would have been helpful there. Would have killed most of his guys. See him to Taurox, a consideration. Surgical. Very good at hitting Life from the Loam. Null Rod is capable of hitting those Mox Diamonds, which is probably not worth the slot. Look like it's just going to be a couple of Surgicals, hoping to snag Life from the Loam. Can also hit a Dark Depths if they dredge it into the bin as they're cycling Life from the Loam. It's actually pretty tough to hit that card, the Loam that is, given the fact that they play cycle lands. That can actually be a real gotcha moment when you go to target their Life from the Loam and they respond with a cycling ability, dredging it back to their hand, leaving you with an invalid target and countering your spell. It's pay 2 life, discard a card for no effect in a already difficult matchup. Not gonna feel great. Snuff Outs don't have any targets in the main deck, but we might see Max bring in Tireless Tracker. We'll see what he thinks of this matchup. Tireless Tracker typically there for the more grindy matchups, so not necessarily Delver strategies and things that are looking to close things out in a hurry. Death Shadows got some new pickups since the last time I sleeved it up. You have access to Drown in the Lock as a potential card, functioning as a counter and a removal spell. The deck kind of wants to have at least 4 removal spells just to keep the board clear, be able to make way for your Death Shadow to actually close the game out and not get chump blocked. Getting extra utility out of it is pretty nice, but the 2 mana is a very big difference when you're talking about the 0 mana for Snuff Out or the 1 mana for a Dismember. Looks like a Wasteland hand being kept by Nick. And again, Wasteland, one of the best possible tools versus the Dark Depths combo. But lands much more qualified to actually deal with Wasteland. So it has its own Wastelands. It has Rishadan Port. There are all sorts of ways that it can work around an opposing Wasteland. One of my favorites is to get my opponent to target my Thespian stage with their Wasteland. For example, Wastelanding their Wasteland, they respond trying to Wasteland your Thespian stage, and you can just turn your Thespian stage into a basic. It's particularly brutal if you go to tap it with a Rishadan Port and they fire it off. Another Thespian stage. He's got Exploration. He can make another land drop if he has it. And choke. Gross. Oof. That's gonna... We're gonna be here a while, unless Max draws Dark Depths, in which case we'll be out of here super fast. A Field of the Dead, also a potential win condition, a card that has shown up since the last time I sleeved up lands. Excellent addition to the deck, giving you a really resilient, solid alternate win condition besides needing to win off of a 2020 Merit Lage. Wasteland being thrown at this Field of the Dead, and Thespian Stage going to copy it in response. We're looking for 7 or more lands here for Max. Rishadan Port. Pretty good against opposing islands when you've got a choke out. Just a zombie or two likely to be enough to close this one out. A Delver of Secrets does not feel likely. And Grove of the Burn Willows being copied. So interesting situation here. Max actually pumping up Nick's life total with a pair of Grove of the Burn Willows. He's trying to keep Death Shadow off the board. Rishadan Port gonna force a Brainstorm. And he's really gonna need a couple of fetch lands if he's gonna be casting any spells. Brazen Borrower could bounce this choke and maybe give him some room to make some plays. I didn't catch that 1 mana spell. It looked like an Elvish Reclaimer. If so, that would be it in a hurry. Brainstorm, Delver actually flipping this time. The Lone Underground Sea, still an island, so choke in full effect. I'm not loving the cantrips here. So let me know what your theory is for playing through this situation. For me, I feel like pondering kind of the best thing you could find would be another land, and you already have that land, so you're kind of giving up a land to try and find a land. I'm not loving it. I guess when you unlock from the choke, you'll have more mana in play, but I am just not feeling it. You got the Brazen Borrower in hand. I would leave that fetch land there and just hope to top deck another land. And here we've got a Tabernacle. That is pretty fierce. Yeah, he's got the Wasteland, so he can actually Brazen Borrower anytime here that he has a additional mana source. Thespian Stage taken down. And this feels like there's no clear path to victory here for Nick. Elvish Reclaimer is going to be able to make a 20/20 pretty quickly. Surgical. It's going to hit the Thespian Stages. That is Elvish Reclaimer. Just swinging 3 a turn could actually be enough here. There's a Dark Depths. Mox Diamond pitching Dark Depths. And 3 damage coming in. Mac's just going to pivot to the beatdown plan. It's going to be very difficult for Nick to work his way out of that, given the mana restraints along with Tabernacle. At 16 life, a single Death Shadow not going to be enough to deal lethal. And interestingly, a Rishadan Port during the end step. Would have thought it would have came during the upkeep. And now we've got a gamble. I'm assuming it's going to be for life from the loam. Loam goes to the bin, left with just a Mox Diamond in hand. And that is going to do it. Oh, that might have been a Polluted Delta from Khans, not a Watery Grave. There's like 3 arts from Watery Grave now. I'm not sure, because it looked like it tapped and then untapped. It's a really long pause. There's a pause button. Probably needed to push that. I was trying to remember how game number 1 ended. Doing a bunch of videos in the same day here. Surgical Extraction and Force of Will and Daze. No real clock there for Nick. He's going to have to hope to draw into some type of threat, or this is just going to be not enough to contain what Max is attempting to do. He does potentially have a Daze for a turn 1 exploration. And instead he's just going to get Wastelanded. Brainstorm in response. And we see a Delver? All right, he could be in really good shape here. There's going to be a Thoughtseize on top of the library. He's got Force, Daze, Surgical. Tabernacle. He's going to pay the 1. Ooh, and Pyroblast. That is a threat to the Delver. Probably what's going to be taken. Can't see the rest of the hand, though. Let's see. Drop of Honey. Also a problem card. And he's actually taking Elvish Reclaimer. He may end up fighting over this Delver with the Dazes, which is totally fine, as long as you're winning that battle. Land go. Paying for the Delver. Sending 3. Just gotta hold it together for 5 turns here. Oh, Maze of Ith is a roadblock. That's gonna really slow things down. Yep, Ponder's got to dig, and really he's going to need to try and find Wasteland. You either have to have another threat or a Wasteland, and another threat means that your mana base is tied up even more with the Tabernacle. It also means that opposing Wasteland effect is a disaster. If you do get out a couple of Delvers and you're paying 2 a turn, keeping them alive, when they Wasteland, not only do they take out your mana, they also make it so you can't pay your upkeep on your next Delver. So realistically, he's really going to need a Wasteland. And even with that said, if he finds a Wasteland, he's still got to outrace this potential 2020 incoming now that Thespian Sage has joined the board. If Dark Depths arrives, you get just an uncounterable 2020 as long as Max has Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, and 2 additional mana. Right now, Maze of Ith and Tabernacle not producing mana. Punishing Fire. Nick thinking about whether he wants to Daze. Does make Wasteland very dangerous. And he's going to Surgical the Punishing Fires now. So we got Crop Rotation. Mox Diamond, Pyroblast. Max definitely wants a land. He'd love to be able to Pyroblast with... he'd love to be able to Crop Rotation with backup. Get out the Drop of Honey. Potentially just clear the Delver could also be fine. Though he may save it for Nick getting out an additional threat. Right now that Maze of Ith is keeping this one in check and could potentially force Nick to overcommit. He does find a land, allowing him to put out that Mox Diamond. And worth it to swing every turn. Urborg is a magic card, and that can allow Maze to tap for mana, so there are some situations where that Maze being tapped does end up mattering quite a bit. Wasteland taking out the Watery Grave. Street Wraith cycles down to 7. Nick's mana base entirely committed at this stage. Uses Thespian Stage. To make a copy of, I believe, the Taiga. And he also gets out a Exploration. Not the most threatening card when you don't have any lands in hand, though Life from the Loam can certainly turn that around. Force of Negation, solid answer to Life from the Loam, one of the best. Days being pitched. And now finally Dark Depths showing up just naturally off the top. And this should be over. Probably Nick's end step, we'll see a 2020 being made. Plays a land. He may want to clear the Delver. Just make a 2020. I mean, if the Delver attacks, I think you probably just make a 2020 and block it. Petty Theft is the only real concern from here. Oh, and he's just removing a counter. Interesting. Got a 2-mana mystery card at the moment. A little blown out at the top of the screen. It is a Sylvan Library. And Nick gonna brainstorm in response. Throws a Force of Negation, pitching Force of Will, 2 high-value cards against Sylvan, which potentially can generate card advantage, certainly card quality for Max, but I think he has all the tools that he needs right now. Again, 1 mana has to be committed to keep the Delver alive. Now that Nick has 2 mana open, he does have to play around Petty Theft now. Drop of Honey. And looking to just make sure that this Merit Lage, when it shows up, can actually get through. Street Wraith, cycling, force pitching Days. So Drop of Honey not going to be clearing the Delver. It's gonna cantrip here. Hope to get maybe like a Gurmag Angler would be nice. Some type of threat. Death Shadow. Get something down. And there is a Death Shadow. So Nick is tapped out. I think he's burned through all of his counter magic, so. And now the 2020 is made. So dealing damage and then using Mazavith to untap the Merit Lage. Oh no, I guess he didn't. It looked like he was going to. Instead, he's just going to try and use the Mazavith on the Death Shadow. Though it's not going to deal lethal anyways. And that is the game. So eventually that 2020 does show up. I'm not sure what Max was playing around there at a couple of points. But Slow and Steady ended up winning the race there, as lands tends to have the inevitability in these type of matchups. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.